Welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast, the photo imaging industry's leading news source. Here's your host, Gary Peugeot. The Dead Pixel Society podcast is brought to you by Media Clip, Advertech Printing, and Independent Photo Imagers.
Hello again, and welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. I'm your host, Gary Peugeot, and today we're joined by Ash Fox, who is the founder of Ash Fox Proposals, a business based in New York City that provides professional photography services and proposal things for getting engaged. So I'm really intrigued by this. So Ash, welcome to the show. Good to see you.
Thank you, Gary. It's an honor to be here.
Tell me about getting started in professional photography, because that led to the proposal business. So where did that start and what drove your interest in that?
Oh, I'm happy to share. Well, I'm a photographer. I started as a photographer. And the funny thing is, I'm a very unlikely photographer, and I'm an unlikely person also to be in the wedding industry for many different reasons. But to start off, I went to school. I studied art. I took one photography class in school, a film photography class. And I'm telling you, Gary, if we had not entered the world of digital photography, I would never have been a photographer. I never would have been, because the film photography class, it was so romantic to me to be able to be in that. It was like a fantasy of mine to develop your own film. But once I actually did it, I'm allergic to the chemicals. I'm having, I already have allergies as it is. You don't know if the pictures are going to come out. I'm like, I hate this. And so that was like my least favorite class I took. Funny enough, I ended up becoming a photographer. So after school, I was just doing all kinds of creative freelance work while I was in school and after school. And a friend was doing really elaborate photo shoots because he was a musician and he was kind of starting like a pop music career. And I said to him,
was this Justin Timberlake?
It could. No, I'm not that old. It could have been Justin Bieber, but no, I'm not that old. I'm right in between those two generations. Okay. But he is a really good friend. He actually has a career in Japan, and he said to me, so we were talking about it, and I'm like, why don't you just buy a really fancy camera? I'll figure it out. And I'm like, I'll just take your pictures for you. So he ended up doing that. He buys the high-end camera. I'm playing around with it. And then he's like, why don't you come on tour with me? He was doing this like tour of malls and cool stuff for, to get seen by a lot of kids. And so I went with him, and that's really where I learned how to compose and shoot, because every night I was shooting. So my first job, my first time doing photography really was a job. Mm-hmm. And then simultaneously at the same time, I got a very funny, one of my odd jobs was a friend who was a rock and roll DJ in New York City. He asked me to be a dancer for one of his new parties. And I was like, dancer? I'm like, go dancer? I was like, oh, I don't know if that's, that's my thing. And he's like, no, you can just wear what you normally wear. You don't have to wear like booty shorts or anything. I'm like, okay, I'll take the job. So I'm doing this job for a month, and there was a girl doing photography, and I was like, Kel, I could do her job, because she was leaving. Mm-hmm. And he was like, all right, you're on. So he gave me his camera. And so I started shooting. And so my first two photography jobs, I didn't even have a camera for the longest time. I just was borrowing cameras, and I was learning as I went. So I got hired, and then I learned on the job. And what ended up happening was, it was so amazing, Gary, because I found I was a big rock and roll fan and a big music fan. Mm-hmm. And I always wondered, I'm not a musician, how would I fit in this world? And then when I became a photographer and I was actually in the mix of all this, photographing musicians, mm-hmm. The party that we did had all kinds of famous musicians come through. Debbie Harry, ZZ Top came through, John Legend, the guy from the Killers. It was really, really cool. And so I'm around all this, and I'm photographing people. And then I got an award, best nightlife photographer in New York City. And it started affirming me, being like, oh, maybe this is a path forward for me. I'm going to be like a music photographer. I'm going to go on tour. I'm going to work for Rolling Stone, or Spin.
Right. Yeah.
I start getting press passes to my favorite bands. And it was such a
Did you ever own
time.
A camera at that point?
I didn't even own a camera, Gary. Okay. It took a whole another year for me to buy a camera. I was like, okay, I think I need to buy a camera now, because this is becoming real. So I bought my first camera. I think it was a Nikon D7500. Mm-hmm. Do you know that camera? That was my first one. It wasn't whole frame.
Hmm.
It was a crop frame, but it did me well.
Hmm.
I remember going to B&H, B&H
Of
photo.
course. Yeah.
Of course you know it. Okay. In New York. And I'm like, all right, what lens should I get? And this guy behind the camera, Orthodox guy, he's like, this is the money lens. And he gives me like a 50 millimeter. He's like, this is the money lens. You'll make all your money from this one lens.
From a
So I
50
bought,
millimeter lens?
yeah, 50 millimeter 1.4. He's like, this is the money lens. So
Did he
I
even
buy
know
the,
what you were shooting? Because that's an interesting choice for a rock and roll photographer. That's an
well,
interesting
I,
choice.
I ended up, oh my God, I can go real deep into the things that I bought and the mistakes I made and what I bought. That was a lesson I had to learn the hard way. I actually bought, funny enough, I'll just share with you. Somehow I was convinced to buy a 70 to 200 Sigma lens.
Hmm.
I get the lens, Gary. The lens is defective and I don't know it. And I just blamed it on myself. I'm like, I'm a new photographer. I don't know what I'm doing. It turned out it was defective. And I had this lens. That's where you could return it.
Right.
So anyway, I learned the hard way. You got to like really know you need a lens before just dropping a whole bunch of money on something. So but anyway, back to my story. That's how it really started. That's how I became a photographer. So I wasn't a hobby photographer who then followed my passion and became a professional photographer. I
Right.
really kind of became a professional out of the gate. But I didn't know what I was doing. I had to kind of learn on the
Right.
job.
Well,
So that was
fortunately, you
my
had people who were willing to be patient with you, obviously.
People believed in me because the one thing I'll say about myself is I have an eye. I have a natural ability for composition, for
Hmm.
aesthetics.
Hmm.
And so I just had to learn how to use the camera pretty
Hmm.
much, but I got framing instantly. I got composition, lighting that
Hmm.
came very natural. And
Well,
I know
because
that that's,
probably from your art background, right? I mean, that.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Mhm. So, what kind of photography did you get into? I mean, you have, rock and roll or pop music or mall tour photography licked. Why didn't you stay with that?
So what ended up happening was I had a crash and burn moment. So I was doing the rock and roll thing. I had so many dreams and aspirations. I got one of the biggest like I have never talked about this on a podcast because it just doesn't seem relevant, but one of like the biggest exciting milestones in my life, which like nobody probably cares, is that Stone Temple Pilots reunited. Do you know that band?
Yeah, of course.
They were from the 90s. Okay, they had a reunion tour
Hmm.
and I got a press pass to be like to like photograph their reunion show in New York. And that was like one of those incredible moments. I was riding high, being like, okay, this is really coming together for me. Everything's coming.
Sure.
And then I crashed out because what ended up happening was the rock and roll party that we've been doing, which brought what it was kind of it was this whole built community where we would do concerts and rock shows at different very like high-end hotels and places in New York, like bringing kind of a downtown vibe uptown. And
Right.
what ended up happening was the music scene really was there was this revival rock scene, but then it shifted and people just wanted hip hop, they wanted house music, they wanted top 40. And so the DJ was like, he had to pivot. And so that whole scene started dying. And we
Mhm.
had to go to these clubs that were just absolutely awful, Gary. Like I was in these clubs with everybody's on drugs and drinking heavily. It's not about art, it's not about music. And I'm
Mhm.
up until 4 a.m. I'm having to negotiate with like the manager who's basically harassing me, like in a dark room, like where I would just want to get my check and go home. And he's like
Right.
wanting to talk to me and flirt. And I got to my breaking point and I actually like I was very lucky. My dad was a real mentor for me. And I'm like, Dad, what am I gonna do? Like, I don't know what to do. He's like, you need to do bar mitzvahs. You need to do baptisms. You need to do weddings. Like very wholesome photography. I'm like, Dad, I'm not a sellout. I'm cool. I'm a cool downtown, like rock and roll chick,
Yeah.
This isn't cool. But I really, because I got to my breaking point, I was willing to make a change because I was getting depressed being up all night and
So the scene changed and it
yeah,
really wasn't the type of music that you were into. So that's what was about.
no.
It was so when you said you flamed out, it was really more like your market flamed out.
Exactly. The market flamed out because there was this beautiful revival scene and it
Mhm.
flamed out. And I'm like, oh, well, now I can't really, it's not really carving that path any. Oh, the other thing, Gary, is like Spin and Rolling Stone, those magazines, they all had to shift the way they worked with photographers. Like in the past, they had people who were staff photographers, but
Right.
with everything, all the changes and the budget cuts, there was no more staff photographers. It was just, you get Getty Images to submit an image or buy an
Right.
image from Getty or something like that. It completely changed. That wasn't a viable path anymore.
Were you on
I was
staff
not
with
on
these
staff.
people?
I was about to get on staff with one of those agencies like Getty, actually.
Hmm.
Funny enough, yeah, this is such a great conversation, Gary, because I haven't thought about this stuff in years, but I actually was about to get on staff with one of the top agencies. A guy, funny enough, a bartender at one of these clubs said to me, "Hey, I know someone who's at one of these staffing agencies." And I was so excited. I did the whole training with them. And then when it came down to it, they had just too many photographers that I was barely going to get anything. So that's kind of when I leaned more into the family photography at that point.
Hmm.
And what ended up happening was the family photography and doing like the baptism and doing the little wedding and all these things is how I ended up doing my first proposal. And that is what completely shifted and changed the whole game.
So how long were you doing like the family photography thing? I mean, when you say family photography, that's mostly like weddings then and things like that, right? Or what?
I wasn't just doing family. Honestly, I was Jill of all trades photographer,
Mhm.
like who's literally doing anything she can do. So I
Right.
didn't have a niche. My niche had been the rock and roll stuff. And so I'm kind of coming out of that. And I was just doing whatever I could do. I did a corporate photography. I did a lot of like pharmaceuticals, pharmaceutical corporate photography. I once wore a hazmat suit and had to like go in to a pharmaceutical facility, like shooting it in the hazmat suit. It was crazy, like shooting plasma. I have a photo of it. It's honestly really funny if I can send it to you. But yeah, I had to literally like each room you had to put a new hazmat suit on
Right. Yep.
and like
Yep.
suit up your camera just to shoot in there. But I was doing family photography and corporate at the simultaneously. The corporate, I would be still doing corporate to this day. But what ended up, my whole brand changed and then corporate stopped hiring me, but corporate was a big thing for me.
Hmm.
But what ended up happening was, oh, so that was over the course of, gosh, I think that this was around 2010 is when the whole thing started. And
Hmm.
then I probably did, I don't know if I can't remember if I did my first proposal in 2000, like 11 or 12, but it was
Hmm.
around there. I ended up getting a job inquiry for a marriage proposal. And Gary, when I got this, I was like, what? I had to like look at it 3 times.
Yeah.
I'm like, what does this guy want me to do? Because remember, we had to roll back the clock. Instagram wasn't even a thing then. Like Instagram,
Right.
I think had just come out, but people weren't really on the platform. It took some time before that blew up. I think that blew up around like
Hmm.
2014, 15. People just, you didn't see all this, people with photographs of their proposal. It was like there was the wedding and that was really it. You didn't see
Hmm.
proposal
And you might
photos. So I
see
was
some
like,
honeymoon pics later on, but not from the
yeah,
professional photographer, of course.
no, or wedding pictures, but you never saw proposal pictures. So I got this guy wanting me to shoot his proposal. I'm like, what is this? So I'm like, all right, sure, I'll do it. And pretty much in those days back then, I wasn't Ash Fox who I am now, who's like the proposal specialist. So I just showed up to do my job, which was just to take some pictures. I couldn't give him any advice. I didn't know I couldn't advise this man in
Right.
any which way like we do now. So I show up. The proposal's on the lake in Central Park in New York City. Central Park's this like giant, beautiful park, very
Oh, of course. Yeah.
iconic in New York, in case people don't know it. But there's this beautiful lake. You can take a little rowboat out. And so that's what he wanted to do. He was going to take a little rowboat out with his fiance to be, and he was going to row it up to this famous bridge. It's called the Bow Bridge. And he wanted to propose like right near the Bow Bridge. So I found a little hut where I could hide out. I had my 70 to 200 lens that was faulty, by the way. Brought that with me.
Didn't have your 50
And
mil on that one.
I had my 50, yeah, I had my 50 on the side, but no, I definitely needed my 70 to 200. And I'm just waiting in this little hut like a sniper, waiting for him to, roll up. And the only thing he told me was, we're both blonde. She's in a green dress. I'm in a blue shirt. You'll see us. So I'm waiting for him. And he rolls up. And at the moment of the proposal, he turns the boat in the completely wrong direction. So we see the back of her head and don't get to see her reaction. And
Wow.
so I'm like, oh my gosh, damn it. So I take the pictures. I feel so bad because I'm like, it's not my fault because I can't swim, but so like swim to get the shot.
But he wasn't prepped as to where you were going to be either. So,
He knew I was going to be in the hut. He turned the boat in the wrong place instead of like looking out for where I was. So It was totally fine because he was like, "Don't worry about it, Ash. Like, I love these pictures. It's perfect, you know." Because again, we didn't have references. This was just the early days, so they were just so grateful, and I did it. But here is the thing for me: there was a big shift. So I watched this proposal happen. I got the pictures, and my whole perspective changed, and I was like, wow, this is such a special moment. This is such an intimate moment. This is such a romantic moment. This was not at all what I thought. Like when I said I was so jaded, I was like, why would you want a photo of this? I'm like, no, of course you want a photo of this because this is really this is the real thing. Like the wedding in a way is a big performance.
And if she said no, you can dump her out of the boat.
Oh my gosh. I hope not. I hope not. But no, it was like, hey, this is actually way more romantic because I had been doing weddings and I saw how
Right.
weddings are amazing, but weddings have a staged quality to them. They're very
Yeah,
performative for
absolutely.
the
And I
family
know a
and
lot of
friends.
people get really burnt out doing weddings fairly quickly because it's a lot of work, a lot of stress, a lot of personality management. Like you said, there's a schedule, there's an itinerary, there's, things to shoot. You got family dynamics to navigate. There's all kinds of things in there.
And I'll tell you the crazy thing about proposals, Gary, we have all of that in a condensed amount of time.
Okay.
We have all of that and it's very condensed. But yeah, no, you can get the thing about weddings that was the hardest part for me was it really hurt my shoulders. It just like it killed me just because it's very heavy to be like this, with I had two cameras and I'd be like this for like 8 hours and it was a lot. But anyway, what ended up happening was this is the crazy part of the story. It was either 1 or 2 weeks later, I get an email from a woman. My son is proposing on the lake in Central Park. I need a photographer to do it. And I'm like, wait, I literally just did a proposal last week on the lake in Central Park. I can help your son. I know exactly what to do. I exactly know the timing for it, where he should go, where I'm going to be, how to turn the boat in the right direction, all that. So I end up helping her and her son. We do the proposal. It's, chef's kiss, perfect. She grabs me. She's like, you don't understand what this meant to our family. She's like, this was everything to us. And this is your calling in life. You're meant to do proposals. You're meant to help people with their proposals. And I'm thinking, like, is she crazy? Like, this is just one-off proposal. This is the second proposal I've ever had. Like, why is this my calling? But it's wild. I kind of think of her as like my proposal fairy godmother because she sort of like took her magic wand. This is what you're
Right.
meant to do. And that, crazy enough, it's what happened. I didn't try to follow this path at all, Gary.
Mhm.
I wasn't like, I never at any point said my niche is going to be proposals. What happened was the niche grabbed me, and I just
Right.
kept on getting more and more people saying, you know what you're doing, you're the expert.
Mhm.
And I became that. So,
Right.
yeah, it's really interesting.
So it's another case of a niche finding you rather than you finding it, because that happened with the music photography, obviously, and that sort of thing. Now it happened with the
Exactly.
proposal. So when you're talking about a proposal, like I'm a proposal coordinator, photographer, what does that actually mean? I mean, can you just kind of put that definition in there of like what constitutes that in terms of like what your job entails? Is it even like setting it up, the venue, or what costume? I don't know about costuming, but
I'm happy
probably,
to tell you, Gary.
I mean, obviously it's more than just showing up and taking a picture with your faulty lens.
Which eventually got fixed. We eventually upgraded to a nice, Nikon 70 to 200 to lay out the vernacular here, the jargon. Proposal photographer, there still are those. And a proposal photographer is what I was. I was one of the first proposal photographers of that time, whatever. I ended up getting known as that. The Daily News wrote a story on me, like Ash Fox is the proposal photographer of New York. And that kind of like blew things up for me.
Oh yeah.
But what ended up happening for me was so proposal photographer is still something that exists where people show up, they shoot the proposal, and that's what they do. But what ended up happening for me was I really felt like it's not enough to just shoot these pictures because if you just stand by and you're waiting for the client to tell you where to go, what to do, it's so messy, it's so stressful. And a
Sure.
lot of these guys, it's not that they don't know what they're doing, but a lot of times people have a vision, but they don't know actually how that translates in real life in many different ways, from like even the conception of what a picture would be like. Like I had multiple men say, I want to propose on the Brooklyn Bridge. They had a fantasy of the Brooklyn Bridge. And I was like, at a certain point, I said, no more Brooklyn Bridge proposals because we got to do pictures with a view of the Brooklyn Bridge, but not on the bridge, because the bridge is a bridge that people walk on and there's
Yeah.
bicycles and it's,
And it's not really all that great once you're on it, right? I mean, the
you see what
view
I'm
that people
saying?
want is looking at the bridge, right?
Exactly. It just got to a point where there was a lot of things people wanted, and I was happy to accommodate, and I still am if people have a real reason for it. Like if a guy told me, which we did, we had a client who his grandfather proposed on the Brooklyn Bridge, was like, no, it's got to be on the Brooklyn Bridge because we're keeping that family tradition. But when a person who just has never been to New York before has a vision of something and they don't know what that reality is really like, they really need someone to hold their hand through the process. And that's just one aspect of it. There's a lot of things. So what I realized was, it's not just enough to just do the photography. I'm really like a consultant. I'm an advisor. I'm a coach to these guys.
Right.
It's not just guys, but it's mostly guys. And so when they got in touch, we would do a planning session, which is really where we go over their idea, get my feedback, because I've done at this point 3,000 proposals, and really just tell them what I think would work for them
Hmm.
and be the best for them, and answer all their questions. Like there are family dynamics that people are navigating. There's a lot of decoys that we have to figure out to really surprise their partner, because they might have a partner who plans everything, and so it's
Hmm.
hard on them to kind of, how am I going to work this out when she plans everything? So that's one piece of it. Well, there's many pieces of the planning session. So the planning session became a big part of it. So it was more than just obviously the photography. So that was there. And then what happened is, as I went along, I realized a lot of my clients need more help than just the photography. Like they really need private
Hmm.
venues to propose.
Hmm.
And I started working with private venues, and I've got now 12 rooftops that we have like very private, beautiful spaces for clients. Then we started doing decorations, because it was like, hey, people want decorations now for some of these things. Also, the proposal game changed in a lot of ways because of Instagram. Back to Instagram, it's like people started seeing pictures of things that were more and more elaborate.
Right.
And so people started feeling like, hey, their eye, I hate to say, it's kind of like porn, like you see something and then all of a sudden you're desensitized. And so kind of like with Instagram, you see a certain kind of proposal. Now you're desensitized. It doesn't look elaborate enough. So you want something even more wild.
Right, because everyone's wants like a unique thing, but it's got to be in tune with what people are currently doing, right? The current trend, right? Whatever that
Right.
is.
Right, because people want to fit, people obviously, not everybody's like this, but there are people who are in friend groups and things where they don't want to be like the one guy in the group that didn't do something nice, or,
Mm.
the girls talk now. And, and it's not just girls. We have all kinds of people getting engaged all the time. It's mostly straight men proposing to women, but we have a lot of women proposing to women,
Mhm.
and we have some men proposing to men, and we have transgender and, queer people too. So that's really what ended up happening with me. It
Mhm.
really just
So
evolved over
how did
time.
you, I guess my question was interesting was like you had to figure out then, okay, I need to charge for the proposal piece. That needs to be like a revenue generator, right? As opposed to an add-on service for just the picture side of it. So how when
Oh, the planning you're saying? Are you saying planning? Or you mean the
yeah,
planning part?
I mean you had to figure out like that's going to be a product too, as opposed to I'm just going to help people out, right?
Well, Gary, at first, I did not. Honestly, to this day, I don't feel I really am charging for that. That's the thing that honestly separates working with me from other people out there, where some guy might be like, and there are people like this, like, oh, let me just find the cheapest photographer possible. Or someone might say, let me just find a really good photographer. Well, honestly, like me and my team were both, because you don't just get a great photographer, because that's a big tenet of what we do. You're going to get the planning session with me too. So
Hmm.
that's added value that most that are not they're not going to have that. So I pretty much, just my own ethos. It wasn't really about charging for that. It was more like, I need to give this to the men because I don't think their proposals are going to come out well if they don't have
Right.
a session with me. That was
Right.
pretty much what it was.
Right. So I've got to ask before I
Yeah.
forget. Have you ever had one where the proposal went just completely sideways, where it just fell flat? It was uncomfortable, let's put it that way.
So we have never, ever, ever had anyone say no to a proposal. And I can't, yeah,
Wow.
and I can't take full credit for that, but I will say that my clients, number one, and I always say this, don't propose to someone if you don't know the answer is going to be yes. Like, do not do a whole big proposal. You should
Right.
know that you're on the same page that you want marriage. The next thing I'm going to say is, the reason why people ask me that so often, has anyone said no, is because of the viral no videos that are on YouTube and
Right.
TikTok. And I'll just tell you, they are fake. Like I'm 99.9% sure that these are not real. That what it is that it's a trend because you can get like even online, you can make money from a viral video online if you get enough of them. So people just make them. They're like, let's just fake a proposal and
Right.
you'll say no and we'll get like millions of views because they do.
Right.
So they're just not real, because people don't really do that. They just don't. People don't get on their knee and propose and buy a ring and do a whole thing if they don't, intend
Right.
to marry the person. But no, in terms of like having proposals go sideways, so we've done 3,000 proposals. Everyone is happy. Everyone ends up getting engaged.
Hmm.
Not everyone makes it to the altar.
Ah, okay.
Yes, and the reason for that is I think sometimes we've had a few, I can think of a couple of examples of situations where, just from being around it so much, sometimes I can sense certain things just in the
Hmm.
people. I work closely with my clients. I love my clients. And sometimes there's times where you can feel that like maybe someone is a little bit more high octane about getting this going than the other person. Maybe the other person isn't so sure.
Right.
You watch that show Love is Blind. I don't know if you've ever seen it,
I,
but they
I
got to
have
make it
family
to,
members who very much like that show. Yes.
yeah, and you wait till that day they get to the altar and then it's like, are they going to say yes? Now they've been engaged for a while and sometimes there's one person who's way more into it than the other person.
Right.
And so I can think of a few clients who I really love. One of them, he did an incredible proposal. He had the biggest heart. And yeah, they didn't make it to the altar. It didn't end up
Hmm.
working out. And I can think of another man who I won't name him, but I remember him telling me she was a gorgeous girl. And he told me, he's like, Ash, the prenup says she can't cut her hair. Well, they didn't make it to the altar. Okay. So, you
Wow.
know,
That's
you know,
interesting. I would,
I've heard a lot of funny things in my days.
I mean, does that ever come up, the like prenup stuff? Because I'm kind of like when I got married, there was no prenup thing happening. So I'm just curious, like, do you ever hear about weird stuff like that? I mean that to me is just a weird condition. I mean, that's almost like
Oh, it's totally bizarre.
fetishizing or something.
Absolutely. And that's probably why it didn't work out with them. And that's what I mean. Like she said, yes, they had a beautiful proposal. They're a gorgeous couple, but they didn't make it to the altar because, that's a kind of a sign something's a little off, right?
Mhm.
So the times that I've noticed things, and like I said, there was a guy who did an incredible proposal, amazing guy. She seemed really happy, but they didn't make it to the altar either. And there was something just, their energy was a little different where it seemed a little bit like, I hate to say it, I sensed he was trying to win her over a little with his
Mhm.
proposal, and you should never do that.
Right.
But that said, I just want to caveat that is we have so many clients who go above and beyond in all different ways, whether it's
Mhm.
doing something a little over the top or not even just that. It's just the sentiment that they
Mhm.
put into it, the effort, the thought, the care. And it's equally matched by the person they're with. And so they do make it to the altar. They've been together for years and years and years.
Mhm.
So it doesn't mean just because you go out of your way that it's not going to work out. It's just
Mhm.
like, don't do that if you're sensing the person is not ready for marriage, really.
When you're talking about your package of services, right? Does
Mhm.
does that still include like weddings and other things, or are you just focused on
No.
proposals only?
We are proposals only. For what we do is proposals. That's our specialty. Now, if we have a client, and we've had clients like this who are like, oh my gosh, this was so incredible. We love you so much. We're doing an elopement or we're doing a small wedding in the tri-state area, in New York area. We want to use you guys. Totally. We do them. We do them for people. But it's not our main, it's
Right.
not like the way that we front face. We'll do it if people want it because we're happy to do it. And sometimes people also, there's a comfort because it's
Right.
it's a very vulnerable thing, the whole proposal, and you get close and
Right.
I've been
Sure.
close with my clients where they're like, yeah, we want to carry on. The other thing to mention, Gary, is I have a team now. So I have three amazing photographers who have been trained in my proposal method approach, my Ash Fox
Aesthetic, right?
proposals. Yeah, and they're so incredible. And
And
like
they have access to your places that have relationships with and things like that.
Oh, well, yes, we have a whole beautiful system for everything. So the way that our whole process works is like a client comes in the door, we do a planning session, and then all they now need to do is get there. They just need to show up for the proposal and get out on their knee. They don't have to do anything because we have it all
Now, how
taken
much
care of for
lead
them.
time do you usually have put together something like this?
Well, we have a range. It depends on the guy. So 1 month is awesome. 1 month you can get everything done pretty much. But we have sometimes people who they want to book things way further in advance, which is totally fine. There's a little challenge with that is just that proposals are a different animal than weddings. And so with weddings, people always think of you got to book it way in advance because you want to make sure all the vendors,
Right.
everything's free. Proposals, me and my team, you can book us a year ahead. You can book us, a year and a half ahead. But with some of the other things that we offer, like some of our venues, we can't confirm that until way closer to the date because
Right.
it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
smaller event. So that's sometimes just like the one reason to, book a little closer. But yeah, 6 months is even good. A year is a little bit much, but we've
Yeah,
had
that's
people
kind
be
of
like, I
excessive, I think, but
some people want New Year's, some people want Christmas, they want like really hot button dates or Valentine's Day, so they
yeah.
book those ahead of time. But yeah, most people book like I'd say average is like 3 months, 1 month to 3 months, but we even do ones 2 weeks ahead too. We've even
Mhm.
had week of ones if we can do it. We can't always do it, but sometimes we can.
That's cool. So have you noticed any trends? Like you've been doing this for a while, about 10 years, right? Specifically.
More.
So like from pre-COVID versus post-COVID, has there been any kind of changes there in
Hmm.
terms of what people's expectations are? Because you've had a bunch of things happen, right? You've had obviously COVID has impacted things. And then like you said, you've had the kind of the social media thing. Like have you had to do some TikTok stuff to kind of like as part of your portfolio, do some video clippage and things like that? I mean, because the world's changed in those 10 years.
You're so right, Gary. Because I have not even really considered that to that level, but the main things that have changed are, you're right, video is huge. For years, we did video, but I didn't really promote it because I kind of felt like, who need, maybe they don't need it. The thing with me too is this is probably not where I'm the best businesswoman, but I don't sell things just to sell them. Kind
Right.
of like what you're saying to me before. You're like, oh, do you charge extra for the call and everything? I'm like, no, I just include it. I don't sell things just to sell them. I sell things if I feel my client, it's something that they need and would want.
Mhm.
Because it's not like, oh, you because I just feel like it's a very personal thing, it's a very sentimental thing. And
Mhm.
so you can't just say one size fits all, or like you should grab all these bells and whistles that you don't necessarily need. Not everyone needs video, but there's people who do need video. There's people who love social media. There's people who do want to share this. There's people who want to
Sure.
show it at their engagement party. They want to do it. So for them, it's great. Or there are also couples who want video because they want it to be just something that they can look at and cherish. So we do a ton of video. Like almost all of our proposals now, a lot of our clients are having
Mhm.
video too. Every proposal comes with photography. It comes with planning with me, one-to-one with me. But then we have all the extras you can add, which is fun.
Mhm.
You can add private venues, you can add decorations, you can add video, and so on. Other changes that I've seen. You know what? It's been mostly consistent, I will say, in terms of what people are desiring. It hasn't changed that much, but like I said, things have gotten bigger visually. So
Okay.
when I first started, we were doing a lot of parks, very understated, maybe some rose petals. Now we still do that plenty. We still do simple park proposals with some rose petals, maybe a few candles. But we also have proposals that are pretty over the top with like very big decor and things like this. And people, for the right person, it's right. For the wrong person, it's wrong, Some people love that aesthetic and some people are more understated. So
Right.
we serve our client. If they want something over the top, we can make it happen. If they want something more subtle, can
Mhm.
totally do it. It just depends on who they are.
Well, this has been a crazy conversation. I mean, I didn't even know this existed. This is so cool. Are there any other photographers out there who do what you do?
I am kind of an OG in this space. I'm honestly an OG. I've been around a long time. You can Google my name and just like watch old videos of me on YouTube. I had a video go viral in 2017. It was like 12 million people watched it. And that video made people aware of what this was because people
Mhm.
didn't really know about it. And so a
Right.
lot of people, the comments on that video were like, oh, I didn't know this exists. And the second comment underneath that would be a girl being like, I want to do what she does. So like a lot of people started
Right.
doing this. There are people out there, but probably, I mean, I'm OG in this space. If you want
Right.
to work with someone who's been doing this for,
Mhm.
a zillion years in terms of,
Mhm.
the modern times that we're in, I've seen it all. So I'm happy to help you.
Well, but I think it validates the business, right? I mean, it's always one of
Mhm.
those things where people copy success, right? When they see things they want to do, and of course, you know, the wedding photography business is just replete with those people who, I went to a wedding and I can do what she can do. It's just almost to an extreme in the wrong direction. In fact, that you get people. I think that's one of the purchases that when it comes to a wedding, a lot of people regret because of photographers overselling their skills or for various other reasons they're not delivering the product they
I didn't
promised.
know that. I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
that's an offline conversation, but
Wow.
listen, this has been wonderful talking to you. Where can people go for more information to learn about the Ash Fox proposals? This is just crazy.
Thank you, Gary. Well, I'm just going to say, just share something real quick. I offer planning sessions and you can do them one-off with me. If someone is proposing, needs advice, ideas, guidance, anything like that, you can book a session with me. If you are proposing in the New York area, we have full service proposal planning,
Yeah.
photography, planning, everything, coordination. Happy to help you there. But if you are in someplace else in the United States or in the world, I'm also happy to help you. And, for certain clients, we do fly out too,
Right.
if they can do it. So to find me, Ash Fox Proposals on Instagram, TikTok, and that's just it, Ash Fox Proposals. And then if you want to check out my website, it's ashfoxproposals.com or ashfoxphotography.com. It's the same URL. So yeah,
Well, thanks, Ash. It's been great to meet you. Like I said, I learned a bunch. This has been fun, and never thought I'd hear Stone Temple Pilots in one of my podcasts. So that's a first. So
love
I
it.
appreciate the call back to the classics, and hope to talk to you again later.
That's great. Thank you for having me, Gary.
Thank you for listening to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. Read more great stories and sign up for the newsletter at www.thedeadpixelssociety.com.